इंडिया बांग्लादेश अलग अलग मोड होते हैं। ये तो परमानेंट ऑन एक सेंटर वाली होती है, एक परमानेंट जहाँ पे भाई वो ना करना चाहिए फास्ट नहीं हुई ना, अभी नहीं हुई की तरफ से तो भी बोल रहा है कि कह रही तेज बारिश हो रही है। अच्छा आपके घर पे वो तो नई जगह पहुंच जाएगा, वो लेफ्ट में उठाना बस, ये राइट में टिकट है तेरे वीडियो कॉल करके राइट में टिकट लेफ्ट में उठा के चल जाएगा। मैं अब तो कुछ बैड है तो कर लियो, समझ जाएगा बेटी। बट मैं तेरे को बता दूं इस पे चलता है, चलो मान लो ये भाई पर है इसको चलता ही होता है तो जल्दी हो जो जो देखता है जल्दी देखता है शुरू करता है हमारे को पता है।
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day two of this training session. Like yesterday, we have with us CSU Apasaji, who will be taking on the session. So without wasting much of our time, you can begin, sir.
Thank you and welcome all. So we are going ahead with, we're continuing our day two. So before that, we will have a quick recap of what we have discussed so far on day one and where do we stand. And yeah, just give me a moment to share the PPT. You're able to see the screen, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I hit on, instead of hide, I hit on stop share. So we were discussing on what is AnyAudit. It's an execution platform. So whatever is done is documented. Because we are executing, there are a lot of incidental advantages like documentation, work paper generation, and all. And there is automation all around, like right from the planning stage to the documentation stage. There is an automation all around. And this was a functional flow of the audit that we have seen. So how do we set up our balance sheet? How do we set up the account? And then how are we planning? How to plan that we have already discussed. So the planning can be done by borrowing an appropriate template from the library. And there are multiple templates like statutory audit, division 1, division 2, GST audit, tax audit. So whatever be the kind of the audit that we perform, we can download that template and modify it here and there if required. And the most important point is a fact finding, which we have discussed. So once we feed the facts, the system will use those facts in multiple ways. One, it will update all the drafts that are required, like letter to previous auditor, management representation letter, and all. So wherever there is a variable text, that variable text is automatically updated. And not only that, functionally, depending on the facts, it will calculate or it will do a lot of decision making based on that. And with the decision making, it will generate a lot of things. And then we will go into the preliminary activities, which includes like the engagement acceptance procedures, independence confirmations, all of that, which are to be done even before the start of the audit. Then we went to financial statements materiality. I have not discussed about materiality in yesterday's session. I have only discussed about how do we catch hold of the data. Like the data could be two types. It could be from the books of accounts, and it could be discrete data also, like it may be coming from Excel or any other source. So we can handle both of those data. And in case of Tally, we have a specialized plugin. That plugin will work for Tally, and it will download all of that. It will download the Tally data dump, and then it will upload into the data. Now we have also see how do we collect data from various sources. And we have touched upon a little bit of sampling. We have not concluded it exclusively, exhaustively, but we have just touched upon. So we will start from there. And then in today's, so we are here up to this tab. Now in today's session, we will be discussing about the other procedures. So there is internal control, risk assessment, process verification that I will take it at the end of the session in view of because it was not done everybody's cup of tea, and then everybody may not be doing that. So therefore, of course, it is very, very important and vital for risk-based audits. Now we will start with entity level procedures and transaction level procedures. How do we record our findings? And then how do we finalize the memos? How do we issue reports? And then the final sign off and then documentation. So this was our flow. So we will take it along, and any questions you have, you can put it on chat box. And the flow is, the demonstration is being done by myself, and I'm supported by Naren on the other side of the screen. So the screen share will be done by him. And kindly allow the screen share access, sir.
Really, sorry. Enough. Zoom is getting updated.
Yeah. So he will share the screen and I will be taking you through. And any questions on yesterday's session before we jump into today's session? Kindly, anything that you want to discuss about the previous session, you may please pose a question, sir. How can we do ledger scrutiny, Rishit Vyas ji? Yeah, in fact, I have touched upon how do we do the ledger scrutiny in yesterday's session to some extent. We will take it a little deeper now. And we have to connect Tally with it. That also I have demonstrated. We have a Tally plugin. And there is no requirement of Tally plugin also, because we will get data from multiple sources. How can we generate sampling if we do not use Tally and using any other software? Yes, that also we will discuss. Yeah, in fact, I have discussed that, Ankur Rajji. We have discussed that yesterday. It is not exclusive to Tally, or it is not primarily for Tally. It is for any software. So we can upload our daybook in Excel. We can upload not even a daybook. We can even upload a data dump into that. So that we will see in detail now as we progress. Yeah, I think with this we can start getting into this. Naren, are you ready to share the screen?
I'm not getting the option to share.
Yeah. From the organizers, I just want to allow Mr. Naren also as a co-host, the other person joining from AnyAudit team as a co-host, and so that we can share in between us. Yeah. Yeah, Naren, share the screen. Log off and start it from the beginning for the benefit of all the users. Now we are all set and we are starting day 2 in action. So the first step is to select an assignment. Of course, in login, we have discussed about user login and external user login. So there are 2 types of logins, one to the auditor and the other. We can give a limited access to the auditee. It is not a full scaled system, but it will only have certain additional details. Certain specialized details like answering query and raising a query, or giving documents for that and all. So once we log in, this is how the interface will look like. Log in with you. This is how the interface will look like. Most of these are about settings and then to set the initial users, their permissions and all. The action plan is like when we select an assignment to work. So once you select an assignment to work, we can select any of the audits like GST, tax audit, or whatever be the kind of the audit. So I'm getting into ABC Enterprises Statutory Audit. We are taking 23-24 as a second year, as an year. Now, once we log into an assignment, this is how the screen looks like. The first one is a dashboard, which shows us how much of work is pending. Because we are going into the core, I'm just skipping this off. The starting point and the ending point of the audit is the planner. So go to engagement planner again. This we have discussed yesterday. So in the planner, all the activities that are to be done by the audit are listed down, and they are organized well in a chapter-wise, chapter-wise setting. So there are chapter milestones and procedures. You can see it on a screen, and we can get into any of the procedures that we want to perform. So we have seen all the preliminary procedures, all the engagement procedures and all. Now let us talk with the data and how do we analyze the data? How do we select a sample? So that is our first part. Now I'm going into data collection. So let me again refresh on the menus on the left-hand side. So planning is the first module, financial statements is the second module, and data analytics and the sampling is the third module. So this module is helpful where the data is not coming in an organized daybook kind of a setting. So here it is any data in tables form, in a column and a row form, any structured data you can upload here. So please go, let us go into data analytics and sampling. Once I go into data analytics and sampling, so here I can upload any sort of a data. You can see here, there is a fixed asset register, there is a sales register, there is a sale book, transaction register, investment register. So this is not coming from daybook. It is just coming from our Excel, and we can upload any Excel file. So you can see on the top, there is an Excel upload facility where we have uploaded this data. Now let us get into any one of the data sets to analyze. So I'm taking fixed asset register as an example because it is a very universal and a common example relatable to everyone. So once I get into this data, you can see there are about 1,000 transactions. On the right-hand side, show all, there are 1,000 transactions. And any query that I run on this data set, you can write your own SQL queries, you can run them. Any query that you write on this will be saved to the log history on the right-hand side. It will be saved to the log history on the right-hand side. So therefore, any data analytics that you perform here are logged for future. And if you want to save that log permanently, there is a save option. If you want to delete it, it will be deleted as well. Another advantage of log is you can decide your starting point. Like for example, here there are 1,000 transactions. So in 1,000 transactions, let us say there are certain extreme large or extreme small transactions, you want to eliminate them. So you have run a query. Okay, so that becomes your starting point. So I'll do it. Now there is a category of asset. You can see the first column is category of assets. Now I'm selecting from the category, I'm selecting one or two categories. Yeah. So let us say I'm selecting where the data contains equipment. Delete. Now I got all the details of the equipment. You can see 188 line items are there. How can we see the number of line items? It is there at the bottom. Now those 188 records are seen in the data pane, the left-hand side of the data. There is one format for data. Now on the right-hand side, you can see a filter number. So there is a filter and the filter number is the filter number 35, 180 transactions. So here, if you click on filter 35, all the data analytic options that you run will run only on the 188 transactions. Now, if you go to show all, and if you run on that, it will run on 100% or 1,000 transactions. So therefore, before you run any query, it is very important for us to check what is my data source. Okay, so my data source could be the whole of the data source, or my data sets could be a part of the data source as we decide. So now I'm clicking on show all. So where I am seeing the whole of the transactions. Now let us first understand the columns that are there in the data. One, there are name of the asset or category of the asset code, location, description, vendor. So like that, there are other columns. Cost of purchase, other expenses, capitalization, asset category, rate of depreciation, method of depreciation. And then there are certain additional columns like stratify and ratify, third party risk and all. So this is a column structure that is followed by a client and we have uploaded it. So there is no defined data structure that we have to follow. It will work on any data set. Now there are multiple options on the top. Let us analyze each of the button and we will go through one of them. So I will take about 25 to 30 minutes of time on this data analytics and sampling. And the same will be applicable even for our ledger scrutiny also. How do we do that? We will go through that. So that is where we are. Hope it is all good. Any questions on this, sir, before we go into data analytics? Now we are concentrating on how do we analyze the given data and how do we select the sample. Once we do that, then we will go into how do we perform the audit action on that or field work on that. Yeah. So can we proceed? Right. So I'm proceeding with that. Now, what is let us say there are asset codes. One column is asset code. Ideally, the asset code should not repeat. So can I can I run a query to get all the duplicated transactions? Because searching duplicated transactions is a very important audit check. So we will keep doing this in multiple areas like my sales invoice or vouchers or purchase invoices. So they should not get repeated. My asset code, it should not get repeated. So how do I check whether any repetitions are there, whether any data has been repeated, whether any asset code had been repeated? So for that, we are using the first icon. So here we need not write any formulas like in Excel because there are certain hand-picked features which are helpful for a chartered accountant. And chartered accountant need not write any formula. He has to select only the appropriate method. Now, duplicate transaction report, I am selecting which column that I have to select the duplicates. So I'm selecting asset code and I'm getting all the duplicates from asset code. With a single click, it will run on count if, like if you have to say it in Excel. So it is running the count if function and then aggregating them and filtering it out and then eliminating where the count is 1 and it will showing where the count is greater than 1. So two asset codes are duplicated 095662 and 515173. Of course, we have intentionally taken an example like that to present. So whenever there is a duplicated transaction, whether it is on invoice level, so here we have run it on asset code. You can run it on any data set that you want. And this, there is a save icon here on a right-hand side. There is an Excel download facility where you can download this as a working paper also, or you can directly attach it to the as a working paper. Now, another important point is if I click on the asset code, I will go into that asset and I can get those two details which are repeated on the screen. So now I could see those two items on the screen and I can suggest a suitable audit action. This I have already covered in yesterday's session. So I can select all of them and then maybe put them for balance verification or physical inspection or I can put any audit action on that. So if I click there, I can select an appropriate audit procedure to be done. So we will come to that a little later. First, our concentration is how do we analyze data and how do we select our audit sample is our topic now for the present moment of. So this is one way where we can use these duplicated transactions. And there is a lot of other powerful utilities on other advantages of duplicate transactions are also there. Now, let us say I'm going to show all. I'm going to all the transactions. Can I run these duplicated transactions on multiple fields? So instead of asset code, can I run it on multiple fields? So that also we can do. Let us see the application of that. Now I'm getting I'm selecting two fields, name of the asset, I mean the category of the asset, and the method of depreciation. So I'm selecting two fields here. So here the software, the AnyAudit will run on two things at a time. It will run on a combination, which means that whether one category of asset have got duplicated methods of depreciation, means more than one. So if you run it, it will show whether in each of the category, like if you take buildings, whether buildings are in straight line or WDV, or is there any duplication. So here the duplication is on building. The building is duplicated twice, one under SELM category and one under WDV category. So here we can easily pick up the anomalies of one category falling under multiple methods of depreciation. So this you can apply under various things, like whether one vendor is categorized under multiple, both under MSME and non-MSME, whether one vendor is duplicated under both registered dealer and a composition dealer. Okay, whether one vendor who is like defaulted or some kind of a category is getting duplicated under other category as well. So here the duplicate is not on single line, is not on single field. So it is very difficult to do the same report in Excel. So you have to go for count and then pivot and then mark one thing as important field, the other as a secondary field, and then you have to group it. So here you need not do all of that. Simply by selecting the rows on which you have to, selecting the columns on which you want to perform. I have selected here the category and then method of depreciation. So just by selecting two things, yeah, Sirish Shahji is asking, how do we get the method of depreciation if we download it from Tally? Now we are discussing when the data is not coming from Tally, sir. Our starting point is there is an Excel file given by the client. How do we analyze that? We have already seen how do we download the Tally dump. So that is one part of the story. AnyAudit is not restricted to Tally alone or daybook alone. That is a major pointer. So you can analyze any given data. Any data that comes to you can be analyzed. It could have 5 columns, it would have 20 columns. It is like a data analytic software. This module is like a data analytic software. Now, another use case we are going. So the next one is pivot. Pivot we all know, so I'm just skipping it up, and time is also not sufficient. So certain important and easy to do actions, I'm doing it. We'll just touch pivot and then leave it. So in the pivot, just like it is like an Excel pivot, you can select the rows and the columns on which you want to pivot. Like for example, you can take 2 columns on one side and 2 rows on one side, and you can do the pivot analysis just like in Excel. There is no big difference between pivot in Excel and here. So let us go to the next one, which is very handy feature, which we call it as a bivariate analysis, which means I can analyze my data based on any variable, like for example, location wise, vendor wise, category wise. Now I want to see from each of the locations, how much of cost of purchase or something is there. So where my data is concentrated. So if I submit it, yeah, I'll show this, I'll see this from each of the locations. Now here the locations are 177. You can see at the bottom of the report, the count will get displayed. Every time you have to look at the bottom to see the count. So we got a location wise summation of the data, and it is not simple sum. We are getting lot of data, lot of information, like what is a sum, what is a percentage of that to the population, how many items are there. So you can sort and analyze it on any basis. Now let us take another example. By the category of asset, what is the cost of purchase and the other details based on each of the category of the asset. Now you can see buildings, there is some volume, cost of equipment, there is some volume, and we got some percentage, count percentage, average transaction, the minimum of the transaction in that, and the maximum. So our auditing standard sampling says that before we go into the sampling, we must analyze the data qualitatively. You can apply statistical sampling only after proper analysis of the quality of the data. Okay. Now, if you want to see the same as a graph, okay. Now, if you hit on show it graphically, it will show the same data in a graphic mode. Now you can see under buildings, what is a count and what is a percentage. There are two headings. The headings indicate the one is indicating the sum, the other is indicating the count. So you can see sum wise, much of the concentration is in buildings. Whereas quantitative wise, they are almost equal, and under computer equipment, we have got some more quant. So what is the advantage of this is it will easily help you to analyze any given data and detect the anomalies or understand the data qualitatively. Now, if you hit on any one item, you will go into that. It is not a simple graph. Like in Excel, you can also get a show chart or a quantity. For that, you have to do, you have to know how to use the chart and all in Excel. Here, there is no such a requirement. Lot of analytic options are there, which at a click of a button, you will be able to see. Now, if you click on any one of the items like land, there are, by count, there are certain 77 items under land. So if you click on that, you will dig into that particular category and they will get loaded onto the data structure. Now you are able to see those 77 transactions. Okay. So this is about bivariate analysis. So like that, there are a lot of other features are there on the top. So let us discuss one of the important features, that is stratification. So before that, very important, you must set what data you are working on. So don't please forget to click on show all if you want to analyze whole data, or if you want to analyze a subsection of the data, then select appropriate subsection which you want to work on. Now, fine, we are on show all. Now we are clicking on stratify. What is stratification? So stratification is division of the data into multiple buckets based on their size. Now we have analyzed it based on their quality, like which vendor, which category, which location. So that is by category. So there are qualitative analysis. Stratification is a simple quantitative analysis of the data. Now you can see in which bucket how much of data is there. You can select any numerical column and you can select it on cost of purchase. Okay. Now cost of purchase, you want to divide it into 10 buckets, let us say. If you click on that, you will see how the cost of purchase is, how much of cost of purchase is in every single bucket. So it will take the minimum value and it will take the maximum value and it will divide it into 10 equal buckets. So you can see a lot of the data is in a first bucket. Of course, because we have taken the whole data, you have taken the whole fixed asset register. Now you want to analyze how the fixed asset additions are there in each month. Now, can you stratify the data month-wise? That option is also there. Now, there is a date-wise. So you can select the date column available. So date of purchase. So you are selecting date of purchase and you are selecting the periodicity with which you want to analyze. Let us say you want to analyze it month-wise. So if you click on month-wise, it will show the same data on a month-wise. So in each of the months, how many fixed assets are purchased and how much of value is there. So you can select in which month the data is high and in which month the data is low. So this way you can analyze the data in any way you want and you can mark them as important and non-important or based on or greater than materiality or less than materiality. And now based on this, you can make an appropriate sample selection. So let us go to the certain sample techniques. So I'm selecting only one or two examples from each of the headings. There are about 16 icons on the top. I cannot complete all of them. So Benford, correlation, outlier detection, certain statistically advanced things. I'm just leaving it off, which we can go through some user manual or training session kind and a workshop kind of a thing. Now, going forward, the last set are sampling. So if you can see, the 16 icons are organized into buckets. So the first one are qualitative analysis like duplications, pivots, and bivariates. And the next four are manipulative, like insert row, delete a row, insert a column, delete a column. And the next one are run automatic rules. So this is one chapter which requires some sort of what do you call some setting up in a settings. The next three are how do we organize the data? So they are filtering, sorting, and describing. And the next four are how do we cut the data into various parts like stratification, Benford, outlier. And the next set are sampling techniques. So random sampler, Pareto sampler, systematic sampler. So last three are sampling techniques. First three are data analyzing, data manipulating, data filtering and sorting, and then data sampling. So there are multiple categories of data analysis possible. You need not require any formula. Just select an appropriate method, give the fields, it will do. Now let us go to random sampler, which is one of the most common things that we use. But we must use random sampling only after doing some analysis. Without analysis, if you apply the random sampling, it is like taking a huge data and then running a random sample out of it. But here also there are a lot of facilities available. Now you can select, how do you select a random sample, from where you want to select. So you can say whether you want a random sampler, the first one is from the whole data or from each category of the data. Okay, like if I say from each category, so get from the category of the asset. So from each category, I just want to select 3 items as my sample. 3 items as my sample. So the count is 3. What I'm doing is, if I click on that, I will see from each of the category, like buildings and machinery and vehicles, the system will select 3 at a random. But those 3, it will ensure that representatively it is coming from every block or every category. So now you can observe from every category, from computer software, 3 items have come, from furniture, 3 items have come. So we can understand this if we sort it. Otherwise also it is, you are getting 3 from every level. Okay. So similarly, there is a systematic sampler. So what is a systematic sampling? Of course, nowadays nobody is using systematic sampling. It is outdated. So what is a systematic sampling is to select every 5th or every 6th record. Okay, out of the data. Like for example, if I click on systematic sampling, I think it is not there in the demo. The next one is Pareto sampling. So these are the various sampling techniques with which you can analyze the data the way you want. You can run your own query also. So let us go to run a query option. So you can write your own query. So there is multi-filter. There is a multi-filter where you can write your own query. Like for example, where the column name contains equipment, where the column name contains equipment and value of the asset is greater than a lakh. Cost of purchase is greater than a lakh. Okay. Now I'm running it. So that way I can write a multi-filter and now I got only 6 transactions. Okay. So that way I can run on any of the data as an example. Okay. I think there is a question pop up. Let me go through. Yeah, in fixed asset register, previous data is also coming. How to avoid these data for sampling? Yes, sir. Beautiful question. Now, simple. First run a filter, then run sampling. That's it. So go to the data, run a filter on date. Now I'm selecting 1000 transactions. You can see. So I'm running a filter that where the data is greater than, I mean, the date of purchase is greater than. So you can select the date. So let us take some 2019. I don't know where from the data is. So just as an example, I'm taking Jan 1, 2019 as a start point. Now, if I run a filter, every asset that was purchased prior to 2019 are eliminated. So now you can, no, run it again. Not picking somehow. Maybe it was not configured as a date in the background. That was a problem. Anyway, so first run a filter. So that way you are eliminating those data and you will run a sampling on that particular data. So that is how you can do that. Yeah, hope I answered the question. Yeah. Now, what is the purpose of doing all of this? The purpose of doing all of this is, yeah, sir, thank you. So the purpose of doing this is to analyze the data the way we want. Okay. So that way, what I can do is I can run the data in any way I want, and I can select my sample. Now, let us say my sample is selected. Some 6 or 8 transactions are selected as a sample. So let us say I am having on screen certain 6 transactions. The most important part is on these 6 transactions, what audit can be performed? Okay, what execution of the audit can be done on them? So if I select all of them, there are 4 buttons on the top. So these are audit actions, and all right-hand side are analytical options. So the left-hand 4 options denote the audit actions that can be done. The most important audit action is to conduct some audit procedure on the selected audit sample. So the moment you select that, the work allocation is also over, and it will get posted to the respective people that so much of work is to be done by them. Now, I'm selecting some audit procedure that is to be done on that. So let us say the 8 transactions I'm picking up because they are fixed assets. So I'm picking up a checklist to be filled. And out of the checklist, I can select which checklist I have to perform on them, or my team has to perform. So in the checklist section, you'll go to, let us say, verification of fixed assets as a checklist to be filled. Now you can also mention who has to do this and who has to verify this. So just at a click of a button, you are selecting a sample, and you are also instructing your team to perform this, and you can also give a deadline. Now I'm selecting demo maker as an maker of this, and demo checker as a checker of this. So once I scope them, these 6 samples will go and get assigned to that particular team, and they have to perform the respective audit action on that. Okay, so this is about the data analysis and data sampling. This is about the data analysis and sampling. On this particular chapter that we have discussed, please let us know any questions, because we are moving on into another chapter, which is again totally different. Yeah. Any questions? I hope there are no questions. So there any questions? Yeah. Can the maker checker be assigned in one go? Yeah. Yeah, we have selected maker and checker in one go only, right? So we have selected both the names of the maker and the checker, and based on that, it will go to the maker first. And when the maker had completed that work, it will automatically go to the checker's screen. RSF, the relative size factor analysis, that is not there in this particular this one. So we are releasing another 6 buttons by this month end, which includes RSF, relative size factor, MUS, monetary unit sampling or attribute sampling, both we are releasing it. And we are also releasing one feature called converting the dates into months and quarters. So next to the date of purchase, you can insert a new column which will pick up the date and quarter. Okay. Yeah. Please explain about materiality and how it can be done. Yes, sir. We will do it. What is the 69 button report? Where is the 69 button, sir? I couldn't see the 69. Yeah, at the stage of assigning each task need to be assigned individually. No, you can select the whole sample and give it to one person. Or if you want to break down your sample and give it to two, 3 persons, then you can select it. So let us see on screen. I'm selecting 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So yeah, select all of them. Yeah, you can select like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm selecting and I can give to one person. And I can select the other and give it to another person. So you can select all or you can select a few of your sample. So that is up to you. Okay. And there is lot of other things also, like you can give the whole to an in charge. He can decide to whom he has to give. So that option is also there. You said some 69 button. I couldn't see anywhere the 69 buttons.
I think the scope button.
Yeah. That is a scope button. Yeah. Fine.
This thing.
Hmm?
He's asking about this.
Okay. Okay. Fine. 8, 1, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is find and replace. So it finds one data and replaces with another one. So I've skipped a few things which are like finding and replacing, delete rows, delete columns, insert columns. So certain smaller things I have just deleted. Yeah, like for example, wherever you want to replace LTD with limited, first you can replace LTD with limited so that you can run a query later on. That's it. Fine. Now let us go into another area, our financial statement, collection of the financial statement, determination of the materiality, and performance of the audit and audit findings. Okay. Now, no, start from the scratch. You go to the left-hand button. No. So how do we go to a little bit on navigation again? Because the more we tell about navigation, the easier it will be. So I can go to financial state. I can go to any screen from Planner. First, Planner is a way I can go to any particular screen in the total portal. Now, if we go to Planner, there are chapters. So certain chapters are on financial statements. So collapse all the chapters, Naren. So these are the chapters. Let us go to the chapter-wise structure like planning, data collection, financials, and after the collection of the financials, internal controls, execution of the audit of financial statements and all, audit findings, reporting and documentation. So I can reach out to any screen from the financials, from the planner itself. Now, if you go to financial statements area, audit of financial statements, chapter number 300. So if you click on that, all steps relating to financial statements are there in that particular chapter. So M1, milestone 1, trial balance, preparation of the financials, risk assessment, adjusted, unadjusted misstatements, and then chart of accounts, reclassifications, rectifications. Scroll it up a bit. Rectifications, determination of audit materiality. So you can access any screen. So there is determination of audit materiality. If you click there, you will go to the determination of audit materiality. So that is one way to navigate. So I'm telling another way to navigate is your left-hand screen, left-hand side. So if you click on that, all these planner steps are grouped into buckets. So all financial statements, if you click there, all screens relating to financial statements are grouped over there. So you can easily navigate from there also. There is yet another navigation where you can reach out to any screen in the system just by one click, which is Alt N. Alt N is to navigate. So if you click on Alt N, it will show you a menu search where you can type whatever you want. Like you asked about materiality. So if you type audit materiality, you'll straight away go to materiality screen. So click on audit materiality, you will jump into that particular screen. So this is on determination of audit materiality. So how do we decide on audit materiality? Now you can see the benchmarks on which you can define the audit materiality: gross turnover, PBT, PAT, EBITDA. So all of them, the system had captured, how the system had captured these numbers. So for us to know how the system can capture these numbers, let us go 1 or 2 steps backward and start it from the scratch. Like I'm going to upload a trial balance or upload a daybook, and I'll start building it from there. So go to trial balance. So this is a trial balance that we have uploaded. This is a trial balance that we have uploaded, the daybook that we have uploaded. And just a moment, please. Right. Yeah, yes, sir. Is it audible now? Yeah, fine, fine. So there was some power problem, and the power got switched. Yeah, started. Now here, where do we get this data? Now we are under ABC Limited statutory audit. We are going to financial statements. Under the financial statements, there are multiple line items. Now in the comparative financial state, it had prepared the financial statement. So how do we do it? We can Yeah, there was a question. Of course, we can do it for peer review and help us stabilize the use of that very much. That is a perfect question, sir. So you can create even the assignments that are completed and you can properly put them in action so that what happens, it will help for peer review. And another advantage is it will pull the previous year balances also. It will for trend analysis and trend comparisons and all also it will help. Now you go into that. So let us go into the trial balance and balance sheet. So here we have uploaded the trial balance and we can upload any sort of trial balance here. So upload trial balance. Here there are multiple trial balances that are there. You can take any of the trial balance, like for example, trial balance of Chennai, trial balance of Hyderabad. So you can see there are a lot of trial balances that are uploaded, which means that the system helps you in taking more than one trial balance. And then once the trial balance had been uploaded, the next thing is mapping of the GLs to the financial statements. So this is a one-time exercise for a client. If you do it for this year, you need not do it for the next year unless there are certain changes in the chart of accounts. And the system will also show us at an error log how many line items are not at map. Now here there are multiple GL names and each of the GL name have been mapped to certain line items of the financial statements. Okay, so by this mapping, the system will know which line item is going into which head of the balance sheet. Now, because of this, the system knows the benchmarks for materiality. Now I'm going into determination of materiality. So it will take only a minute for us to decide on materiality. So there is a heading materiality. So if you click there, the system will automatically pull the numbers from the balance sheet and it will display us on screen. Now you can see the amounts are in millions. So the gross turnover is like 34 million, PBT is like 26 million. So these numbers are pulled by the system automatically from the trial balance that you have uploaded. So what is our step here? We have to decide on the materiality. Okay. So to decide on the materiality, okay, of course, one most important thing is we have to see that we are having the permission. Now, how do we decide materiality? Let us say I am deciding my materiality based on turnover, and I am saying my materiality is 1% of turnover. So if I say 1% of my turnover, so 35 million, it becomes 35,000 or 3,50,000. So just by giving the parameter based on which you want to decide your materiality, if you click on that, it will automatically calculate the materiality that we want on that. Okay. Now, not only that, if you go down, can I decide my materiality on multiple parameters? The answer is yes. Like for example, here I'm taking my materiality on two factors. One is on gross turnover and also on certain other like net worth. So I'm taking 1% of gross turnover or let us say 1% of net worth, whichever is lower. Okay. So now 1% of gross turnover is 35 lakh and 1% of net worth is 35 lakh. So it will take, because it is materiality, it will always take the stringent of the constraints. So my materiality is whichever is lower of them. It is like 0.35 because my risk could come from either turnover or from net worth, and whichever is minimum that it has taken as a planning materiality. Now, according to the auditing standards, we have to decide on a performance materiality, which is lesser than the planning materiality. So just you have to give what is your performance materiality number. So in this screen, our only job, the user's only job is to decide which parameter, which benchmark they want to use and decide how much of percentage they want to give. That's it. Rest of the things will be done by the system on its own. Now I have taken 50% of my planning materiality as performance materiality. So just by changing that from, let us say from 50, I'm changing it to 60. So let us say 60% of my planning materiality, I'm considering it as performance materiality. The moment I save it, it will become my planning and performance materialities. And wherever I go for actual execution of the audit, the system will have a clear indication of the threshold. 35 lakh is my planning materiality, and some 60% of that, some performance materiality is scrolling. You can see the performance materiality of that is coming to 21 lakh. So just by giving the parameters and the numbers, the system will automatically decide on the planning and the performance materiality. And not only that, if you go to your financial statement master, and if you want to compare it with your total misstatements on that, so now these are my financial statements which are generated from the trial balance that is uploaded. Now, wherever the line item total is in excess of my materiality, in excess of my planning materiality, so they are already marked as material transactions. So the identification of the material line items of the balance sheet, the system is doing automatically. Okay. And as and when I perform my audit, let us say there are certain misstatements, the adjusted and the unadjusted misstatements. The sum of the adjusted and unadjusted misstatements, the system is calculating and it is comparing against the materiality. Now, if my adjusted and unadjusted misstatements are exceeding the materiality, then they will turn into red automatically. Now you see there is under capital redemption reserve, there is a misstatement of 0.02. Okay, but my planning and performance materialities are on higher level. So because my planning and performance materialities are on higher level, the system is not turning that into red. Okay, so therefore, once you decide your materiality, the system will compare the definition of materiality, and whenever your actual misstatements are exceeding that, it will automatically alarm us. And you can write your own observations at the end of the same report. And this becomes, now you have, there is a remark section. So where you can say that though there is a breach of materiality, it is very slightly, there is a slighter breach, or you want to give it in your key audit matters, or you want to give it in your qualifications also, you can make a quick remark on that, or you can identify the further audit course on that. Okay. So hope this part of determination of materiality is clear. Now, how the system knows these many misstatements are there? So that part I have to discuss. Before that, how do we calculate and determine the materiality? That we have discussed. Another important area is, even before we decide the materiality, institute guidance says that we have to first analyze the risk that is involved in the audit. So how do we analyze the risk of misstatement, or how do we analyze what is a proper benchmark? So for that, there is one tool called risk assessment of materiality. All done. Risk materiality. So there is one procedure called risk assessment for the sake of materiality. So this tool will help us how much of risk is involved in this particular audit, and that will help us to decide on what is a better factor for materiality. So here there are certain questions, like you can say 8th question, prior history of a fraud. Are there any ongoing investigations? Is it a new entity? 5th question, going concern and liquidity issues. So here, under the appropriate, you can select the appropriate factor for that on a scale of 1 to 10. So this is exactly as per the guidance given by ICAI. They have also released one utility on how do we decide the risk involved in materiality with the suggested benchmarks also. So just you can select your appropriate model on that. And let us say ongoing, in certain questions you want to add or certain questions you want to remove. So that flexibility is also there. So you can go add any question or you can hide any question. Let us say I just want to remove the first and the second questions. Ongoing investigations and negative publicity, I just want to avoid because they are not applicable to my case. Example. Of course, it is not a real example. Just as a feature, I am saying. Okay. There are no rules, sir. It is a professional judgment. What the system will help is once you decide on how much of risk is involved under that particular head, it will help you decide on a better benchmark for materiality and better ratio for materiality. So it will help us in planning. But under negative publicity, do you want to select 0 or 10? It depends on your experience or the information that we gather around the client. Okay. Materiality. Any questions so far? Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen once, relating it back to the flow which we have discussed. So we have completed on financials and materiality, data and sampling, and ledger scrutiny in yesterday's session. Of course, I will go today also because of pop up while I do this. Okay, now we will go to performance of entity level procedures and the transaction level procedures. Okay, so we have divided the whole audit procedures into two parts: AL, assignment level or entity level, and TL or SL, transaction level or sample level procedures. So what is an entity level procedure and what is a sampling procedure that we have to perform? So these two things we are going to discuss now. Yeah, Naren, share the screen. Now, again, back to the planner. Now, these are various procedures that are there in the planner. Let me go through a few examples. Go to the top, select appropriate, collapse, expand all the chapters. Now, these are various procedures that are to be performed because it is a statutory audit and that too of a company. So the procedures are according to that. Now, you can see here, engage audit, the P1, procedure 1 is audit engagement acceptance checklist. It is a checklist, and within bracket you can say AL, which means it is an entity level procedure that is to be done at an entity level. You will not do this checklist for each of the samples, for each of the vouchers, right? So similarly, all auditing standard checklists, you can see SA 210, agreeing on terms of audit engagement. So that is also an entity level procedure. Therefore, it is having AL within the bracket. Now, similarly, if you go for audit of sales or audit of fixed asset acquisition or vouching, it will have SL, which means they are a entity, they are not entity level, they are at a transaction level or sample level. So go for audit of sales. Control F, audit of sales. Slow. Yeah. So you can see audit of sales within bracket. It says it is a subject level checklist. Okay. So AS9 recognition is an entity level, whereas audit of sales is a subject level. So this bifurcation we have made just to differentiate between the two kind of procedures. Now, if we go into one of the assignment level procedures, So this is an entity level procedure. And for the entity level procedure, there are certain questions which are the checklists are given by the system. You can add, edit, delete these checklists, create any number of checklists that you want. There are the checks like whether the sales register is maintained, whether the customer balancing being collected prompt. These are questions that we are more like an internal control mechanism or more like an entity level questionnaire. Now, how do we fill in this checklist? How do we evaluate this? So the right hand side is relating to answering part of that. The users can give their answers in the answer section. So while you go for answer section, you can select yes or no as applicable to that. And so that is one way. And the users can also give in their give their full answer like yes, verified, and whatever the user wants to put it. Yeah, entity level checklist is a one-time processor. Exactly, sir. Perfectly put. It is not repeated or it is not iterated. Like all auditing standard checklist, all accounting standard checklist, all CARO checklists, they are all assignment level. Whereas the transaction level vouchings and verification of sales or verification of fixed asset acquisitions, asset balance confirmations, they are all sample level. Whether it is entity level or sample level, the screen looks the same. The only thing is for sample level processors, you have to select sample also. We'll go there a little while. Now, let me explain on the execution of this. Now, on right hand side, there are certain icons. You can see there are 6 icons. There are 6 icons. So I'm starting from the left. The first icon is link a working paper. So here you can link any of the working paper as a support of this particular question. So what is a working paper? And there is also another link on the right hand side that is an attachment, which is an evidence. Okay, so typically we call everything in the audit world as a working paper, but in fact, whatever the work that is done by the auditor is only a working paper. Whatever the audit collects from the client technically is an evidence in support of that working paper. Okay, so if I want to link another checklist to this check, or if I want to link another procedure to this, that will become my working paper reference. So that is my first icon. Okay. Let us say I just want to give my AS9 revenue recognition as a support of this. So I can simply type in the other checklist that I have got and I can click it as my working paper reference in support of this question. Okay. So that way the cross working paper linkages are happening in the system automatically. You can see AS9 revenue recognition ICA checklist has been attached as a working paper reference to this. 500-002-001 is a checklist reference number, and checklist AL, it is also an entity level procedure. Okay. Now on the right hand side, there is attach icon, which is nothing but your audit evidence. So you can collect any Word files, Excel files, PDF files, any file. Of course, you cannot upload certain exe files and script files, which could be dangerous. Otherwise, all normal categories of attachments can be uploaded. So click on that attachment and you can attach any working paper. So choose file, click on that, and you can choose any file from your desktop or Google Drive or so. So the trial balance I'm uploading. Now, for us to retrieve this later, the system is giving an option called category and subcategory. So if you fill this category and subcategory, it will be very easy for you to organize your uploads into the system. So category and subcategory, you can define whatever you want. Of course, you have to define it before the start of the audit. So you can select from the category, let us say it is a working paper or it's an audit evidence. So it is an audit evidence, and under audit evidence, what is the kind of the audit evidence? Let us say it is a KYC or whatever is the kind of thing. So this category and subcategory will help us to analyze or to retrieve our working paper uploads or audit evidence uploads in an easy manner. So I'm updating it here. Once I do that, my file will get uploaded from desktop to this system. So against that question, you can see working paper references and attachments also. So therefore, your audit execution and simultaneous documentation is also happening on a real time. Okay. And it will, these buttons and these actions will apply or are applicable only to the maker and the checker. If any other person in the assignment comes here, so none of the buttons are available to them. It is only a read. And if the person is not there in the assignment, then he cannot even come here. So if the person is in the team, but he is not having access, then he will have only read-only team, then he cannot even come here. Okay. Now, there are other icons like memo, notes, and communication. So let us say I have certain important observation to be made here. So can I make my observation? Can I write my audit observation here itself and then escalate it to the next step? The answer is yes. So memo, notes, and communication, I'm just explaining the difference between the three. So communication is when you want to communicate some query to your client or some query either internally within your office. So I'm clicking on communication icon. So from the communication icon, you can raise any communication to the other party. So there are two types of communication, internal or external. So if I click on internal communication, I can communicate internally within my office. And if I click on external communication, I can communicate with the external team. Like it could be my client or balance receivable. It is could be AR, AP, accounts receivable or so. So I'm clicking on external communication. So here are the external communications that are already there. I'm adding one more. So I'm clicking on, so I can write the text. I can write the text that I want. So I'm coming to the mail body. So this communication will go in a mail format to the other person. So I'm saying, please provide the following and all. So I have to write a text. So instead of writing a text, we have given certain standard texts, which you can select. So I'm selecting one of the standard texts for obtaining balance confirmation or for obtaining some information. So you can see, dear sir, please send the below documents. So whatever the text is there that got pre-filled into the item. Now, what is the name of the communication? I can give a small name to this communication. So let us say communication number, some 234. Preliminary document required. Now I'm writing it to my external users. So the external user could be anyone like Mihir, ASP. I can give mail subject as some mail subject also. So just by filling this, I need not go to the mail body and all. I can simply add my communication from here itself. So I can also set an expiry date within which time they have to answer. If I'm leaving it blank, they can answer it at any point of time. And there is a mail attachment also. So if I attach some mail, some file to here, the other user can also download the document and then respond to the document. So therefore, right from filling up of a checklist, I can even shoot a mail to the other person, which if they answer will come and get attached to the checklist where from the attachment is given. Now, if I say submit, one link will go to both of them. One link will go to both of them like Mihir and ASP. So I have the copy of the link here also for demo purpose. So this is a link which we have just shown for the link demonstration purpose. Now this link will appear in their screen, will appear in the mail form. So if I copy the link, this is how it looks like. Now I am logging in as an external user. So if when the external user clicks on the link which they have transferred, you have sent it to them. This is how their screen looks like. Now we are in a screen of our external user. They can log in with their simple mobile number and OTP. They do not require any user ID and a password. Of course, if you want a continuity of transaction, you can give an user ID and password also. So we have both the options. How can you communicate with an external party? So you can communicate it through mail link, and they can access it with their mobile number and OTP, or they can access with user ID password according to their choice. So if you want to communicate with the same person again and again, better you give him a user ID and a password. If you are communicating it only for one time and he is not there in your regular system, you can simply give an mail-based communication. Now I am entering the mobile number. Let us say 99, my number, 99. Yeah, send it. 8232. So just to see that only proper people are communicating. So this is how it looks like. Preliminary document request that had come from ABC and Associates, and they can submit their response there. Okay. So they in a way you can communicate it with your team, and as and when they communicate it back, you will see whether it was responded or not responded. So same thing we are using for balance confirmations also, which I will demonstrate it. So coming back to the story, going back to the checklist. No, sir. There is a question whether client will be considered as a user for the purpose of charges. No, it is not. So you can create any number of users without any charge. So it is free of cost. And of course, what they can do is limited. They can only answer your questions or raise a question. If you ask for a document, they will answer those documents. That's it. Therefore, there is no charge for that. You can have any number of clients. Not a problem. External users are not chargeable. Only audit users are chargeable. Yes. So now this is a typical execution screen. We discussed about attaching. We discussed about raising a communication. Now let us discuss about most important point, raising an audit memo. So if I click on that second icon, the orange colored icon, it is an audit memo. So what is an audit memo? Audit memo is something that is raised when you found certain misstatement or some wrong had happened. You discussed with the client, you raised a query, you have seen their response, you are not okay with that. So you are raising a memo stating that there something had gone wrong. Let us say in the sales ledger, the master details is not there, or the rate is not as per the sales master. So therefore, you can add an audit memo. So this is how the screen of audit memo looks like. And in the audit memo, you can select those things. The main important things are every audit memo you can put up to your whoever is finalizing the audit, the engagement partner. So you can put up for their approval. If there are multiple senior people, then the junior can select to whom it has to be given. Like for example, for tax, he may write to some people. For audit, he may write to some people, like that. Okay. And if there are multiple locations, select the location under which the problem is. And the article student or the one who is raising a memo can write his observation there. So let us say the sales register is not updated with the sales rates. Whereby revenue is improperly recognized. So let us say this is my observation. So if I save this memo, what happens is this memo gets recorded, and under the references section, after the memo, there are certain sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections are there. All the sections are not mandatory. They are optional. You can use it for your better control of the audit. So there is one references where it is showing this memo is raised while I am filling a checklist on, I am in audit of revenue, and I am doing the procedures on sales register, sales ledger, sorry. There, when I am filling up a question, that is where from my observation or this memo is coming. So that way I can decide that the references section is auto-filled. And there are other sections also like audit impact. I mean, what is the impact of this? Okay. Now let us say I'm saying the impact of this is my sales will be overstated, let us say. So I'm clicking on add an impact. So I can write the audit impact here itself. Now you may say the one who is filling the checklist and the one who is raising the memo may not be that knowledgeable to write all of this. Then he need not write. The next level person can write. So either the maker or checker. If maker writes, the checker will approve. If maker is not capable to write, he will only write his observation. The checker can fill it at a later point of stage. So here he can say what is a kind of the impact that it had. Like for example, it is resulting in, let us say, overstatement or understatement of expense or whatever income. So let us say it is resulting in overstatement of income. and how much of overstatement of income is there. How much is adjusted and unadjusted? Let us say nothing is adjusted, everything is unadjusted. So let us say some 20 lakhs of unadjusted misstatement is there. Now you can also say which line items of the financial statements are affected by that. Let us say it is affecting my revenue from operations or sales. So it is affecting my revenue from operations, and it is also affecting my debtors. Let us say trade receivables. Okay. So this way I can, while I raise a memo, I can also say the audit impact. Of course, again, I'm at the cost of repetition, I'm saying it is optional, but if they are recorded, there are a lot of advantages to come. So similarly, there are other tabs like 5C reporting, which is used mostly in internal audits and management audits. There is a report section where I can link it even to the final report to which it is relatable to. Let us say I can select the report that it will have an effect on. Because of this, what is going to happen? So I can select which report is affected by this directly. So let us say it is affecting my CARO, it is affecting my 3CD, and I can select the appropriate paragraph also. Okay, select some paragraph, maybe first, second, not a problem. Yeah. So while raising a memo itself, the maker, or if not the maker, the next level person, the checker, can tag the memo with the report where it is relevant to be shown. Okay. And he can also give the impact of this. So the moment I save this memo, the effect of this is it is getting reflected everywhere that it is relevant. Now, just we have seen materiality, and we have also decided our materiality amount. Now I have recorded this memo, and let us say this memo is approved. Now what happens is, if you go to your financial statements under revenue from operations and under trade receivables, the memo is getting added and you will be able to see the misstatement there. Now let us go to my misstatements screen, financial statements, misstatements screen. Yeah. So I'm going to my financial misstatement. Now I'm going to my revenue from operations. Change it to lakhs. It is in millions. It is a bit confusing. Go to rounding off. By the way, you can select the rounding off which you want, whether in lakhs or crores or whatever it is. So you can go to rounding off and styles. Change it to lakhs. Yeah. So here the rounding off is there. You can select the kind of a rounding off that you want. So he put it in lakhs. See. Now your whole financial statements, numbers, everywhere it will get rounded off to that this one. So refresh this. Now I'll go to my revenue from operations. So the total unadjusted misstatements in revenue from operations is 56 lakhs. We just had recorded 20 lakhs now. It is 56 lakhs because some other misstatements are all there, because it is a cloud-based collaborative audit and everybody is performing the audit. The system will pick up from everybody's finding. Now 56 lakhs is a total misstatement. If you click on that, so you need not worry about how many misstatements are there under each line. The system will keep a tab of that and it will count all of them. So I'm clicking on that. If I say 56 lakhs, you can also have a trial, the audit breakup of where from that number is coming from. Now you can see there are a lot of numbers, out of which this 20 lakhs is passed by us. Okay, so go there, go to the next one. So the sales register is not updated. This 20 lakhs had come here. So therefore, just by passing your memo, the system had considered it under the respective heads of the profit and loss or balance sheet. It had aggregated all the misstatements. It is comparing with materiality. And in case the materiality had crossed, it is also giving an alert. Advantage number 1. Now let us take advantage number 2. If you go to Caro, we have linked this to certain paragraphs of Caro. Now let us say on the last day you are issuing your Caro report. You go to Caro. Hope you are comfortable now with the navigation. So I'm simply putting Alt N and typing down whatever I want and I'm going there. That's it. So if I go to Caro, of course, the question and the answer are not related, but I have linked it to my first paragraph of Caro for ease of demonstration, not to search and go down. Now, if I go to Caro, when I have to issue my final Caro report, all the findings that I have mapped, all my team had mapped to this particular paragraph of Caro, I could see there. Now, current assignment findings, I can see all the findings that are linked to this. Now, under that section, you can see that the sales register is not updated, thereby revenue is inappropriate, recognized, had come and sit here in the Caro report. Okay. Now, this is advantage number 2. And because I have given this, I can drill down, like whoever is issuing Caro at the last day, or whoever is generating a report. It could be any report. It could be 3CD report. It could be internal audit report. It could be LFR report in case of a bank. So any sort of a report, you can structure it in the software, and the respective answers and the questions and the answers are generated from the software itself. And the findings are all mapped to the software. And if you click dig down, if you click on that, open a new window. So now you are going to who had finalized this memo, and in the audit response and finalization section, you're able to see who had raised this memo. Now, if you click one more step backward, you will see the memo itself. Now, this is a memo that we have seen. Now, if you go to references, and if you click on that particular checklist or question, if you click on that, you will straight away go into that particular checklist where from this memo is in fact raised. So I have logged on to the screen of that particular checklist itself. Okay. So that way it creates the whole navigation or the whole linking in the workflow, right from picking up of a sample to filling up of that checklist to raising a memo to when the memo, if you write the impacts, it will go to the financial statements and it will hit the financial statements, will recalculate or tabulate the materiality, and it is also linked to your last step, last mile, that is Caro or internal audit report or ICOFR or whatever be the kind of the report that you will give. Okay, so that way on a cloud-based environment, the whole team is working on one, and because we are working on this, the effects of these are calculated automatically, and there is a linkage to the final reports as well. Now I will take up next advantage number 5. When I have written a memo, I have tagged it to overstatement of income or understatement of income. Overstatement of income. Fine. Now, let's say when I am answering this particular text, so I can write it here that select, delete, remove the existing answer. So I can say that we found some, whatever the text I want, I can write. So I'm saying we found overstatement of asset, overstatement of income amounting to rupees. Now, instead of writing my answer in terms of rupees, what I can use is I can use the concept of variable. Okay, so I can pick up the variable, whatever the variable that I want. So I can pick up any of the facts. Yesterday, we have discussed about name of the previous auditor or whatever the facts that we have used. So here I'm saying I'm selecting overstatement of income. Now it had been a part of the answer. Now let us see the magic in a moment. Now I'm also writing, this was already reported in the previous year by Messrs. So let us say I want to write the name of the previous auditor. I just don't want to write it in text. can simply include it as a variable. So I can go to variable and I can draw the previous auditor's name. So this is one of the most powerful utilities. What happens with this is that your answers, your CARO or your internal audit report or your management represent, wherever you are drafting anything, okay, in the drafting, you can use a combination of a standard text and a variable text. Okay. Yeah, you don't have permission there. First set the permission. Sorry for that. 1 second. Yeah, meanwhile, any questions you can put it on the chat because we have to do it while we are doing it takes a moment. Sole proprietor, yeah, even if it is a sole proprietor, minimum 3 licenses are required. Why? Because there is a concept of maker checker, and it is based on number of users, not based on number of audits. How many audits you do, it doesn't matter to the system. Okay, so the minimum number of licenses to be taken are 3. Okay, you can write it to us. We will take it, and we can write it to AnyAudit, and the team will take it forward. Now, let us say I'm giving this answer. Now, if I update this, the system will read these overstatement of income, name of the previous auditor, or whatever be the text that you put. It will pick it up intelligently from the audit notes. Okay, so it will pick it up from the audit notes, and you can see here we found an income amounting to overstatement of income amounting to that number 523,007.52 lakh is picked up from all the audit findings, some of that. So if 2 more audit findings come, that will also change. This was also repeated in the previous year by Messrs. Nishant and Associates. So this is coming from audit facts. So if you change the audit facts, if you are performing the audit, if you come to CARO, you need not do anything. The CARO report is already pre-filled. You have to just check it once if it is proper or not and say generate a report. Your job is done. Okay. So the answers that you write for this year, CARO that you will write for this year will stay relevant for next year and next year. And there is no copy paste mistake. Okay. Let us say FRRB had published a lot of documents stating that huge number of mistakes that were found in both financials and the audit reports. All of them are because of the copy paste mistake. Let us say the net result of the year will be loss, and the profit during the year, we will say somewhere in the text that the profit is. Okay. So all of a sudden, because of some JVs, some numbers will change. Because of my audit findings, some numbers will change here and there. So what happens here is that those kind of numbers will stay intact in your report. So that is the automation in reporting, automation in drafting. Okay. It is mostly rule ridden. It is mostly driven by the rule, and there is some little bit of AI also in the background on the screen. Okay. So it is picking up based on the text identification, and as and when you tag it in your reports, it is picking up from there and it is summating it and giving it in your report. So all of this is by simple memo. So when you record your audit finding, advantage number 1, I just briefing it up again before I move to new chapter. Advantage number 1, it will update the financial statements with the misstatements, and it will it will aggregate all the misstatements, compare it with the materiality. Advantage number 2, wherever that number is used, like overstatement, understatement, 3613 disallowance, if it is income tax audit, or ITC if not found in GST or 2A, in for GST audit and all. So it will reflect and update those reports wherever you use that. Advantage number 2. Advantage number 3, it will create a tracking system from CARO to memo to finding to your checklist, real checklist. Okay. So once you do the audit in a system, all the other infrastructure is all captured, and all the other infrastructure is updated on its own, whether it is final CARO, whether it is financial statements, you need not worry about that. So that was the kind of automation it is resulting in. And one more beautiful point is let us say there is a decision on this. Let us say there is a decision. So let us say we say if the total misstatements are exceeding certain 10 lakhs, then we have to perform some action. Okay. Even those action will get triggered automatically. Hope we have discussed this in detail. Any questions on this? You can please put it in a chat box, because I'm going into a total different area: internal control testing, financial reporting, risk assessment, and all of that. So it is a little technical and may not be used by everybody in their real life, but then that important module is also there. Yeah, show the final document of Caro. Yes. So here there are three kinds of documents that are available. So you can see on the top, there is a Word file which is generated only with answers. The another one is you can generate a Word file. So you are not doing Caro and uploading it here. It is reverse. You do the Caro it here and download it to Word. So why are you downloading it to Word? To put it on your letterhead, to sign it, or to do some formatting like bold, italic. You can do that here also. But if you want even more colorful report, you can do that. And there is a PDF button also. So this PDF button is helpful for documentation. Okay. So let us see all of them. So first, let us download it as a PDF. So if you click on the PDF button, it will generate it as a PDF document with all working paper references and all of that. So this is for documentation purpose, for audit standard documentation purpose. So ABC Limited, Caro in a question answer kind of a thing, it had come. Now let us go to another format. Download it in a Word file with both question and answer, because this is common for all the reports, whether it is 3CD, whether it is ICOFR, whether it is GSTR9. So therefore, we give it in a question and answer style also. Of course, it can't work for 9C9. Yeah, here you can see the Caro report. The question is in bold form, the answer is in a non-bold form of this. So the question is there and we found overstatement of misstatement, etc. Okay. This you can further edit it. The table got downloaded. You can further edit it with table bordering, your letterhead on the top. So whatever you want, you can do it freely. There is another option. It will download only the answers. So you can choose whatever the final report that you want. So if you click on answers alone, it will generate it as an answers. So here, only the answer had come, the question had not come. So this is another style of reporting that is possible. Fine, sir. So I'll just go back to my PPT once. So we discussed about entity level procedures and transaction level procedures. Both are one and the same when it comes to doing it. But when we are doing it in transaction level procedure, we are repeating it on a sample. I will show the sample also once, and I will show the balance confirmations also once. And from there, we went to audit findings, where you record your audit finding. The audit findings will automatically get reflected for finalization. And from there, it will go to your audit reports as well. Okay. So this is where we are. We skipped two parts: internal control processing and process testing. And we go to sign off and documentation later. Okay. Meanwhile, there is one interesting thing also coming up. We will show that as in this one. Yeah, Naren, you can share screen. And any questions on this so far before we jump into totally new topic of internal control assessment, risk assessment, process walkthroughs, heat maps, and all. ICOFR testing, internal control over financial reporting testing. Before we go into a new topic, any questions on this so far? Yeah, and I want to also show two things. Yeah, fine. Show the final documentation. That also we will go. Go to the, what do you call? Go to some subject level checklist, like audit of sales. Now, I'm coming to navigate it to audit of sales. So in audit of sales, you can see all the samples that you have picked up to verify this process are available. So how do we have sampled it? We have sampled it from the ledger scrutiny, or we have sampled it from your raw data, and you have seen all of them here. And these are the samples that are to be verified. And I can click on any one of them and proceed to answer. Like if I click on the first one, again, the screen looks the same. There is no difference in the screen when it comes to entity level testing and sample level testing. Only thing is the amount of the scoping that has to be done will change. So here I can come here and fill the answers. And while I fill the answers, again, the questions, the answers, again, here also, the memo notes and communications are all the same. And I can do that. Yeah. Raju ji, yeah, yes, sir. We have discussed about ledger scrutiny yesterday on related party transactions, on cash transactions, on entity level testing. We will do it one more time. No problem, sir. It is there. It is there. To some extent, in the sense, there are certain pre-written rules. So that rules it will run. Yeah, go back. Now, let us go to one of the important areas, that is balance confirmation. So how do I obtain? Yeah, one more thing is here you can fill this checklist either subject wise or question wise. So let us take voucher number 65. If you click on that voucher number 65, can we delete some questions in the checklist? The answer is partly yes and partly no, sir. You can delete the checklist. You can delete the questions in the checklist in your settings page, in which case it is applicable to all the assignments or the assignments that you take up later. Once it is coming to your screen, the user, whoever is filling the checklist, cannot delete any checklist, it cannot delete any question. Okay, so you can do it at a settings level. You can take the copy of the checklist. There are 20 questions. You can remove 5 questions, add 1 question. That you can do. But once you apply the checklist, while you fill the checklist, nobody can delete it. You can at best say it is not applicable. Okay. Yeah. Change the user setting to you. Hmm? Here you can take the voucher number 367 is on the top, and you have to fill all the questions at one go. But this may not be practical in certain audits. Like for example, you have taken 10 vouchers to audit. Okay. Or you have taken 10 advances in a bank to verify. So it is also a good idea to fill those items as per one question at a time. So you can also fill the same checklist question wise. That is another very powerful, useful utility. So if you go to the checklist, you can take it question wise, in which case you will see question wise data, and you can select on any one question, like are credit sales verified with proper invoice copies? So that was a question. Now here the question will stay on the top, and all the samples that are there, they will come. It is loading, just a moment. So it will load all the samples on left hand side, and you can fill all the vouchers at one time for a given question. Okay, so that way it can be done both the ways. That way it can be done either take a voucher, fill all the questions, or take a question and fill all the checks there. Okay, so that way it will save a lot of time. Now let us go to balance confirmations, which is another important area. So these are balance confirmations on accounts receivable, and whatever the sample that you have taken for balance confirmations, all of them will come and sit here. And you can give the name and email ID of the people. They are not even external users, because you will be communicating with the wide cross section of receivables, payables, bankers, and all. So what you can do, you can select all of them and shoot a bulk email. So if you click on this, bulk emails will be posted to all the email IDs that are listed on the screen. You can even upload it. There is an Excel upload facility on the top. So instead of typing the question, then the name and the email, you can create them in an Excel and then upload it here. So to all those accounts receivables, debtors or creditors, the balance confirmation mail will go to them. And you can also see if they have responded to the mail. So there is one item, response to the mail. Come to them. And you can also send a reminder mail from there itself. So there is a, if you click on that, it will go as a reminder. Again, do you want to share? So therefore, you can send mails to all the accounts receivables and all the accounts payables in one go. And they can, when they have responded it, the response to the mail will turn as yes. And you will have a ready-made statement of that. And that was also integrated into this. Okay. Fine, sir. Now, let us take up the area of internal controls, process verification, process walkthrough, control testing, test of details, and test of design, and also generation of control registers thereof. This is more particularly useful in the area of internal audits, or in the statutory audits in the area of ICO for testing, internal control on financial reporting testing. So here it goes. Here you can collect any process or SOP followed by the company. I'm not spending much time on this. I'll just wrap up in 2-3 minutes on this. We can explore it at your free time, not an issue. So internal control, the first test is to capture the process. Here you can see on screen, fixed asset acquisition, order to pay, capitalization, order to cash, obtaining loan. So various internal controls that are followed by the entity are captured here. And the next step is, if you click on that, you can go create the detailed steps. Okay. So what are the steps that are involved in fixed asset acquisition? First, evaluate the need, conduct cost benefit analysis, go for budgeting. So these are the steps that are followed by the entity. Now, in the next step, you can perform the risk assessment thereon. You can perform the risk assessment thereon. So all of these risks that are identified on each of the processes, SOPs, and the control framework that is followed by the entity can be uploaded here or can be created here. And we can take a sample vouchers and you can go for a compliance testing or control testing. So as per the standards, we have two types of testings. One is test of design and the other one is test of detail. So I'm going to control testing or compliance testing on this. So compliance testing is when we are verifying whether the existing SOP is followed or not followed. So these are the samples I have taken to verify whether the internal control system is working or not. So if you click on that particular sample, the system will give you a checklist kind of an approach where the SOP itself is a checklist. You need not write any checklist. The SOP of the company itself is a checklist. Whether that SOP is complied or not complied, you can see on the top, the sample number is 115229, fixed asset number 115229. That was acquired during the year. For that, whether the company had followed all the steps of the SOP. So this will become a beautiful report for your internal audit, more particularly. Or even for our statutory audit, at least a little bit of a sample you have to verify. Of course, in partnership firms or proprietary concern audits, it may not be that relevant. But for company, it is a mandatory requirement. We are doing it as a part of our internal independent audit report itself. Okay. So here you can verify the SOP, whether it is complied or not complied. And here also the common steps are memo, notes, communication, attachment, working paper linkage. All of those options are available. Similarly, you can take up another testing called control testing. So there we will see whether the risks that we have foreseen in the process have actually come up or not come up. Okay. So clicking on that fixed asset register, I have taken few more assets. So here my objective of testing is not to see whether the SOP is followed or not, but whether to see whether the SOP is good or not, whether it is a test of design. So here I'm saying whether the risk it got invoked or not, or whether the control is effective or not. Do you have internal control SOPs inbuilt? Yeah, we are giving some 50 or 60 processes we are giving as a model, sir. You can start using them. And you can create your own internal controls also. Most common processes like order to pay, order to cash, acquiring fixed asset, retiring fixed asset, sale of scrap, selection of a vendor. So most common 60 SOPs, which are useful for everyone, that we are giving it as a part of the package. Okay. And we cannot give all the SOPs because every company or every industry will have their own processes. You can capture and create your own masters. That was the most powerful part of it. Now, when we do this, how many times the control got failed and how many times the risk got affected, that we are mapping here. You can see for each of the step in this particular sample, we are saying whether the control is effective or not with a number like probability and the scale of impact. What happens if you visualize it as a graph? Now you go to heat map by process or node. Here you will see the whole heat map. Like in this process of fixed asset acquisition, how are these risks or how are how each SOP point is working? Like you can see some of them are in green, which means they are safe, and some of them are in red, which means that the control is weak or the risks are more. Okay. So this way it becomes a very good presentation material for the audit committees or boards or even for your internal audit of corporations. So internal audit is a very big avenue. So even for the proprietary concerns also, they can definitely take up the internal audits of certain bigger companies where they require a good presentation material. They want to see how the internal audit had been performed. So here, the software, there is an inbuilt processes for all of them. And if you go to ABC Limited next year, the SOPs that you build here need not be built again for the next year. So everything is a roll forward. The whole audit master pack itself is getting rolled forward for the next year. So therefore, if you go to the next year, the SOPs, the risk, the control, the samples that you have verified, everything is available. You can just modify it to the next year if there is any change. Okay, so that way you can take the heat map last year and heat map this year and put it as a comparative in your PPTs to the audit committees. Okay. So that way also it will help us a lot. So this is one area. And yeah, there are certain questions and 5 more minutes is left. And we have discussed about one thing yesterday. So I'm sharing my screen. So we discussed about all of them: setting up, planning, find the fact, take financials, determine materiality, scrutiny the ledger or take the data. From both the areas, you can select a sample. So if you select a sample, it will go to either entity level procedure or transaction level procedure, perform them. And where are certain findings, it will go to the audit findings. And from the audit findings, it will go to finalization reporting. The last one is sign off and documentation. So because of lack of time, I just touch upon them very briefly before I go to another important one we have discussed yesterday. If you go to the planner, at the end of the performance, there is a sign off and a review. Of course, as I said, in every individual screen also the same buttons are there. So if you go to the individual screen, they are there at the bottom: perform, sign off and review. So if you go to this, any reviewer partner or any reviewer can access this, verify this, and based on that, if you had any review comments, they can make the EQCR comments here itself. Okay. So that way it integrates the whole system, and you will also have a track of how many steps are performed and how many steps are signed off. So there is a performance button, sign off button, which you will be able to see at any given point of time. Okay. Okay. So this way the sign off and EQCR is there. And coming to documentation, as I said, done is documented. So any part of this, whether you call determination of materiality, or you call permanent file. So I'll go to permanent file. Of course, I couldn't discuss all of them. So let me say permanent file. If you want to generate the documentation for permanent file, just go click on that PDF. It will get generated as a working paper for you with all the proper markings, with all proper formatting. So ABC Limited, your name of the firm, ABC, working paper references. So you see here who prepared, who signed off, who reviewed, those markings are also there. So this is a permanent file. So you will be able to see director details, applicable laws, shareholding pattern, board meetings and minutes. So everything that has to go into a permanent file will automatically go in a permanent file when the documentation is done. Okay. Dedi, which chapter? Yeah. So similarly, you can download this at any unit level, means for every line item level, or you can, if you want to download it, you can download it in bulk also. But download it in bulk had a problem, because if you download it in bulk and they are having hundreds and thousands of samples, so then the PDF, the memory may be out of the memory capacity. Otherwise, you can, therefore, we have given it at a chapter level, like acceptance and initiation is a chapter. So you can generate it at a chapter level, which is very easy for us to maintain it in PDFs also. Offline maintenance is also possible. Anyway, when it is available in the system, there is no requirement for us to download it on a real-time basis. So this will get downloaded. Yeah. Now, one important thing is we discussed about something called in the financial statements as a regular part of it. The financials that are, yeah, you can see the chapter-wise PDF that got downloaded. So ABC Limited, chapter acceptance and initiation, the index, and then all the points that are falling in that chapter. You can see there is 136 pages are there in this chapter. So that way you can have chapter-wise PDFs, and maybe there will be some 10 to 15 chapters in any audit, like planning chapter, risk chapter, financial statements and materiality chapter, like that. Okay. Now, going back to, I'll take 2 more minutes, sir. The financial statements that are generated in this system is mainly for audit. So when you see the previous year and the current year, it will mark differences. It will generate the ratios. It will generate for analytical purpose. Okay. So in this particular system, the financials that are generated are not for the point of printing, because it is not the part of the auditor to give the print. So for print financial statements, in fact, there is another complete independent, this one, of course, in the domain, but it is not a part of any audit. So I just want to spend a minute to show how the ready to print financial statements do look like. So this is how the ready to print financial statements will come. So you can see it in a ready to print format with all the labels, signatures, and all coming up. So in that, you can generate the financial statement notes, and there is a lot of it in disclosure part, like you can add any disclosure. And when you go to any disclosure, you can say shareholding, significant ratios, consumption of raw materials, remittances in foreign currency. This is exclusively for generation of financial statements. So that is not an audit system. It will only collect the trial balance and day book and convert it into ready to print financials. So that is an independent system out of the audit. So I just had added it for demonstration purpose. Otherwise, it is not a part of that. Yeah, it is not a part of this, sir. It is a complete separate pack. Okay. And there is a lot of facility in that also. Like, for example, if you go here, do you want to, how much you want to show? Like, for example, non-current details. If you don't want to give the details on the face of the balance sheet, if you want to stop it there, so you can say display further details as no, in which case the system will stop showing the further details. It will stop at non-current liabilities alone. Okay, so that way granularly you can decide on how much of rounding off you want to get, what shall come on the face of it, what shall not. Now the total has to come at the bottom. You say the totaling as yes, and automatically the equity liabilities, the total of equity will get added at the bottom. So that way, this is to generate financials. This is not a part of audit at all. And in audit software, the financials are ready, but it is only in a comparative format for making an analytical presentation and analytical part of that. So thanks a lot for your time. I'm stopping the share here. Maybe if we are on a face-to-face and then you're also doing it, it could be much more relatable. But thanks to CMP and thanks to Institute for giving 4 hours of time where we could present it with the ease. Any questions on this, sir? Any further questions on this? It's a full-scale end-to-end audit automation system. So in fact, we couldn't cover a lot of office management and drafting management for your income tax scrutiny, show cause notices and all, and time management for your attendance and all. So those systems are also there. So in this 2-day program, we restricted our talk only to audit, start and audit with end to the audit. So other modules and all we have not discussed because of lack of time. Just as a point of mention, I'm saying those things are also available. Yeah. Just if the no more questions are there, is to give it back to the organizing committee. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the opportunity and thanks for your feedback and time. Yeah, thank you. So you can visit ICI CMP site, you can visit AnyAudit site, and you can take the dialogue forward. And thank you, sir. So with this, I hand it over to the organizing committee again. Thank you. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Actually, the rain is coming here, so there is some network issues.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no
so
issues.
I'm extremely sorry for that.
No issues, no issues. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and it had been a very good interactive session.
Yes, sir. Yes, it was, sir. And I hope the participants must have learned from you, sir. And I have learned, being a chartered accountant myself, I have learned new thing, how to do audit in a detailed way from you. Otherwise, it was something else. You cleared the misconception that audit should be done like this only. And I would like to personally thank you for giving the
Thank you. Thanks a
knowledge.
lot. It means a lot for us. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We would like to see you in future batches, and like this time, the next batch will also be full. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you, participants. I will share you the YouTube link video, this recording of this session, and tomorrow, yesterday's session of will be shared in the next week. So thank you for joining, and thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.